Today's tutor is Portrait Artist of the Year winner Gareth Reed, who caught the attention of us judges with charcoal drawings of broadcaster Adrian Chiles and actress Imelda Staunton. He further impressed with portraits of actor Tom Courtenay and High Court Judge Mrs. Justice Chima Grubb.
It's just fantastic.
This is an absolutely exquisite finished piece of art.
Winning him a commission to paint broadcaster and comedian Graham Norton for the National Gallery of Ireland. In 2023, he created a tender and serene portrait of actor Dame Judi Dench, which secured him the title Portrait Artist of the Decade.
Gareth Reed.
Known for his calculated approach to portraiture,
it's a bit like trying to solve an equation that you don't really know the answer to, but it's exciting because everything's open.
Gareth will be sharing the techniques behind his thoughtful process in today's masterclass, Building a Portrait.
Today we're going to look at how to build a drawing, how to take it slowly, not jump the gun too much, get bogged down in details too soon. We're going to look at how to build a structure early on so we've got a good foundation to create a likeness later on. What I've done is I've put my source material, my reference photograph, right on the easel beside my drawing. So I can compare directly from one to the other without a big head movement. So we're going to start loosely and lightly, not committing too many heavy solid lines to the drawing too soon, so we keep it movable. So today I'm going to use charcoal. What we do when we're standing at the easel holding the charcoal is hold it, instead of a writing grip, we use a drawing grip, what I call a drawing grip, which means that you're holding the charcoal like this and it's very, very light in your hand. So you can make light strokes, not heavy strokes like this, okay? I'm standing back at arm's length so I can compare easily. I'm going to start with this side of the photograph here. I feel like that's a good anchor point here. So I'm going to start. I'm not committing a complex line. I'm just doing soft, vague lines. So anything that's big and obvious that I can see, the side of the head, side of the cheekbone here, hairline, anything that's kind of obvious, I'm going to focus on first. When I draw like this, I'm kind of feeling my way around the face. So I know where the cheek line is. It's somewhere around here, and so I'm making there may be 10 lines there. Eventually, as the drawing progresses, I'll arrive at one line. But to start with, it's a broad line. It's broad marks, and I know it's in there somewhere. But the key is not committing too soon. You don't have to nail it first time. So I'm keeping it broad and loose. Obviously, choosing a reference photo is very, very important because that's the content of what your drawing is going to be. The photographs that I'm looking for have got some kind of animation in their expression there. There's a bit of a spark there. The expression isn't dead. There's something happening, some kind of life in the expression. So that's kind of why I've chosen this one here, because I just feel like there's a bit of life behind the eyes. There's something going on there. It adds some interest to the portrait. I'm trying to create a structure at all the bits are arriving at the same time. So I'm not accelerating ahead with an eye, for instance, or any of the features. I'm just purely trying to make structure and put in all the salient parts. So I'm marking roughly where I think the nose is. I'm going to stand back. That's another thing about the drawing being on the same page as your source material. You can stand back and compare directly. So where's the nose? It's kind of around here. Where's the mouth? Here. So the mouth is at a slight angle down the way. Same with the chin, it's roughly here. Eyebrows are kind of going up at an angle. I think there's strong lines here, here, and here. So I want to put those in as a kind of marker point. At the moment, I've got top of the forehead, the hairline. I've got where the eyebrows are. I've got the bottom of the nose. I've got the jawline. I've got the chin. And I've got the mouth. So I'm building up slowly a lot of the elements that make a face. This is the foundation. If the foundation is good, then the rest of the drawing can be good as well. Today I'm working on paper with charcoal, and it's a vine charcoal, which is kind of semi-soft, but it's sharpenable. So I've been able to sharpen it to a fine point. Other charcoals, willow charcoal, you can sharpen it, but it maybe doesn't maintain a point like that. So that's the key. That's why I use this charcoal all the time. So it almost becomes like as sharp as a pencil. So you can work in a refined way, but also in a broad way as well. And then also, because it's a bit softer, it works on this medium toothed paper, which means it's slightly rough. If it's smoother, it's harder for charcoal to kind of adhere to it. The thing about charcoal is that it's easy to remove as well. So you can, I work with two kinds of rubbers. So putty rubber, which is moldable, so you can make it into a point, and also a little retractable rubber, which is good for kind of finer mark making. Also, I think about rubbers not just for mistakes. I think of them as a drawing tool. So mark making, eventually, if you want to take off a layer, you can use that almost like the reverse of a piece of charcoal, a pencil. This rubber is actually probably 20 years old. I got it when I studied in Florence for a while, for about 6 months, and I've had it ever since, and I can't find one as good as it, so it's stayed with me. So yeah, that's how long it lasts, 20 years. So yeah, my faithful rubber. I think drawing's the thing that everyone starts with, and it was kind of the thing that I just kind of kept going with. It was always a very, very important part of my, when I started art, it was kind of the main thing that I did. And then for a while, when I became a professional artist, there was a period when it was all I did for about, I think, 3 or 4 years or something. I didn't do any painting at all. I just drew for the entire time. I took my inspiration from Seurat, who I'd heard that he just drew for years and years and years, and made that his foundation for his painting. And also, I would say that I probably struggled with painting back then. So drawing was it was just something I felt I had a handle on, and it became really an intrinsic part of what I did then and what I do now. So if you notice at the moment, it's all the elements in the face that have the same level of simplicity or complexity. That's the way I like it to be. Everything emerges at the same rate. I don't want anything to go ahead of the other, because you can. It's easier just to kind of keep the balance of the drawing. So everything is done in a very, very simple geometric way at the minute, but we're getting more complexity, and we're seeing the little shapes inside the bigger ones. We are seeing a little bit more detail, nostrils, for instance, corners of the mouth, the slope of the eyelid. It's just growing in complexity, and that's the way I like it to be. So these lines on the left-hand side of the drawing here, they started broad and simple. So for instance, the one on the jawline, the cheek line, instead of being something that's broad and made up of a line that goes like this and then a line that goes like this. It's now starting to become a bit more complex. At some point, I can say that the actual edge of the face at the eye socket is here. I can kind of be quite purposeful about that. As this line goes down, it comes out slightly for the cheekbone, comes in a little bit, changes here again, and then there's another line underneath there. So it's just, we're getting to a point where it's progressing in complexity. All these lines are progressing in complexity. We can start to make proper decisions. If you look at the nose here, it's not just one line the way I started off drawing it. There's a little bit of a bump here, and then it becomes a straighter line. And then if we look at the eye socket, there's certain lines which are very, very strong lines. So like inside the cheek here, it's a dark line. We can see it very clearly here. So we can kind of start to put in those in a more solid way. It gives us an anchor to work from. There's no tone whatsoever, but I'm drawing around the edges of tone. So if you look, we've got a line here where the direction of the face changes. I've just shown that as a line at the minute. There's no tonal areas. They're all just edges of forms at the moment. So that's all I'm sticking with at the minute, not shading. We're close to shading, but we're keeping it until a little bit later. All the way through the drawing, it's a constant process of checking, moving things. If they need to move, they've got to move. There's times when you stand back and you realize something is really askew. Another way of checking it, and it's painful, but you've just got to move it because the whole drawing relies on that. I used to say in classes, ABC, always be checking. It's just a continual process. You never stop. I'm coming to the stage now where I'm fairly happy about the position of everything, and I can now start putting in the shading. But sometimes when you put in the shading, it reveals inaccuracies. Even when you get to that point, you're not just kind of coloring in, you're still checking. It's an essential part of it. It's the kind of integrity of the drawing that you do that all the time. So if I look at the corner of the nostril, if I go up, straight up, I get to the corner of the eye. So just make sure that's all in the right place. If I go across from the corner of this eye, I see that it's slightly below the other one because the head is slightly tilted. So if I look across, I want this point here to be below this one here. It's kind of, this might need to move up a little bit. So I'm doing that everywhere, not just with the eyes. I'm doing that all around the face. Any kind of salient point, I make sure that it's in the right position, north, south, east, west. I'm pretty happy that everything is in roughly the right place. It's a kind of a freeing moment because you've put in this hard work and you've been taking it slow, and you can kind of be quite confident that the drawing isn't going to go badly wrong. I can kind of loosen up at this point and start shading in quite a loose way because I've got that really strong structure to work with. This is one of the tools I use most of all in the studio. I find it completely essential. Just looking in the mirror, if there's something wrong with the drawing and I'm not too sure what it is, often when you stand back, look in the mirror, it kind of jumps out at you. You see it for the first time. So when I stand back and look, I can see that there are elements around here which aren't quite right, that maybe need to be lower. The proportion from here to here, I need to check because it looks smaller, but we'll give that a check. It's a very, very quick tool to help you see deficiencies in your drawing, especially proportion-wise, angles. It just really, you see the drawing for the first time, especially when you've been working on it for a long time, you've got very close to it. It just, yeah, it gives you a fresh eye. So the charcoal I've been using is very, very soft. So it's perfect for the start of a drawing because it's easy to move around. It produces a nice soft line. But at this point, just because we're getting into the detail, this particular charcoal goes blunt faster, so it doesn't hold its point so well. So I'm going to change over to a slightly harder charcoal so that I'm into the shading part of it and bits of detail with it that I want to be more precise. So I'm going to swap to one which is harder and keeps its tip for longer. Same material, not sure how they do it, but it's still vine charcoal, but it's just a harder version. It's not so hard that it can't draw on paper, but it just keeps its tip longer. At the moment, I'm doing the shading, and some parts of the drawing require darker tones, other require kind of mid-tones, and all really, it depends on the quality of the charcoal for a start. So if it's harder, it tends to be a lighter tone. If it's the softer one, like this one, it tends to be a darker tone, but also pressure. So the places where I want it to be really dark, like say for instance, just in this bit of background here, which will describe this intricate part of the cheek. I want that to be really dark, so I'm just leaning very hard on the charcoal, and it goes almost black, which is what I want in that area. So yeah, it's just a case of pressure. And then up, I would kind of want to be a little bit lighter up at the top, so I'll move to the harder charcoal. And it's just that grip I was talking about earlier on, where you're just holding it very lightly, moving very, very fast, and it just produces a kind of a grey or light grey tone. You can kind of, if you go over it, it kind of fills in that whole area, light grey. And that happens all over the face. There are parts where I need it to be darker, but there are parts in between which are mid-grey, so I want those to be, I'll use the harder charcoal for that, and a bit less pressure. I always have to sharpen the charcoal probably every 5 minutes. The bucket ends up just completely full of charcoal. As we get towards the end of the drawing, I'm trying to make the shadow coherent. So what I mean by that is that at the minute, it's a bit patchy, so there are parts like up here that I need to darken, up here. So that all the shadow on this side is the same tone. That's what I mean by making it coherent. So that makes it believable as something that it's a solid object with light source on it. So it's light on this side and dark on this side. So it's dark on this side of the face. Same as the nose here, that's the same shadow. So I'm at the moment, trying to balance it out to make all those shadows the same tone. Okay, we're going to leave it there for today. Hopefully that's shown you how, with a strong start, you can get a likeness. And remember, check, 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 stand back from your easel, and don't get bogged down in those details too soon. Good luck.
If you'd like to find out more about these masterclasses, go onto our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv.